Today is Tuesday, May 29th, 2018. It's MMAjunkie Radio's pre-show. That's Dan. Danny's over there. And George was just here. Now he's gone. Where'd he go?
I like that.
He's gone.
Yes.
We're in the middle of two topics.
Oh, jeez.
One was Jersey Shore. And the other was, what would the title of your book be? Danny's book would be Beyond the Blue. I like it. Dan, Tom, what would your book be?
Boy, come back to me.
Can I submit one for Dan, Tom?
Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
Pretty easy.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Jesus, terrible.
That's probably... You get the most hits that way, that's for sure.
What about yours, guys?
You get the most hits.
Somebody asked us about 4 years ago to write one, and he had the perfect title for it.
Okay.
He was going to call it, We Ask That You Bear With Us.
Hi.
I like that one.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
He was like, look, I want to do this, and I even have the name. As soon as he said it, I was like, yeah, like I'm really going to let you name it, guy that I just met. And then, yeah, he blurted that out, and I was like, whoa, that's pretty good.
2 minutes. 2 minutes. I like that one. Also, so can we go to the other topic that we were just talking about? Jersey Shore?
Yeah. Angelina, the girl from...
I didn't know who that was.
She showed up. So she was part of the first season, but she quit like maybe a couple episodes in.
Oh, God, I actually remember this name. Why? Why do I know this name?
And she, when she showed up...
Wait, I'm not
choking on my
all the way
spit,
caught
so
up.
let me talk. Okay,
So maybe I'm not all the way caught up, because the last episode, at the very end, was when they pulled the prank and Situation saw her come. But
there's one more
the
episode
girls,
after that.
Yeah, I'm not all the way caught up then. The girls walked in and it showed their reaction, and then it said on the next episode was when they were really...
No, you're caught up.
On the next episode of Jersey Shore.
But it was at the very end of the last episode, was when she was just coming.
Oh, no. They have an episode where she arrives, and then next week is going to be the girls' reactions.
Okay, so I am all caught up.
This week on Jersey Shore.
Anyway, when she showed up, she had all of her stuff in trash bags, not like suitcases. She was like the weirdest person ever. That's
right, because my roommates were filling me in on this because they said that's why it was funny that she said she was engaged to a sanitation worker.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, yeah, from now on she'll have luggage for the rest of her life. Coming up at 30.
Wow. I just got a scratch in my throat.
So you're falling apart over there. What's going on?
Alright guys, coming up at 10. Stand by.
George, do we have room on tomorrow's show?
Possibly. Let me check.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMAjunkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is going to be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMAjunkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Go. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMAjunkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMAjunkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMAjunkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMAjunkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world, inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me, as always, is the devious and dastardly Goes, RA's co-host. To my left, the fight analyst, Dan Tom. Back east, producing Danny Otto. What's up?
What's going on?
What up?
Not much, man. Not much. Still gleaming over last night's win.
Crazy
The Vegas Golden
game.
Knights took out the Capitals from Washington, and it was crazy. I mean, this thing went back and forth. Vegas took the lead 1-0. They came back and took the lead 2-1. We came back and took the lead 3-2.
They tied
3-3.
We went up 4-3.
No.
Yeah.
Wait. Did we?
Oh, no. They did.
Went up.
Then we tied 4-4.
Yeah, and then we won 6-4. Man, it was crazy.
Did that last goal, did that have...
That helped a lot.
Wow,
That's
because
the
you kind of
goal and a
called that.
half. That's the goal and a half
That's
puck
funny.
line. And it happens often with the empty net. Usually when the team's behind, anywhere from a minute to two, depending, you'll see the goalie waiting for the signal to move off so that you can go 6-on-5. And sometimes the other team's just clearing it. They just want to clear it, and it buys you, anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds while the defensemen go retrieve it and start over again. Sometimes just clearing it will make it go in the net, but that's rare. It's usually when someone actually gets a piece of it, and then from a distance they can put it in. Sometimes they make it, sometimes they miss, sometimes they'll skate it all the way in. This one happened with 2 minutes left. And I have to believe these players, with this being a gambling town, they have to have an idea. You know what I mean?
Think so?
Where, I think so.
I think there's too much going on.
Maybe. I mean, I know they just want to win, but when you're in the open space like that, you're just... Why would you... You know how in basketball sometimes they'll dribble it, and if the 24-second clock, you know that they're not going to foul you, and they're not going to defend you, and you'll just sit there and dribble it, and then hand it to the ref. And then there's other times where they'll just go and then huck a three or go in for a dunk. It all depends. That's just the way some players are wired. They're always just playing till the end. But I mean, help me with this. It's a gambling town, and to me, it sounded good. So it was great, man. It was a great comeback win. It was 1-0. I don't know. I don't know hockey purists what they think of a 6-4 game. I went to a World Series game where the Angels won 11-10, and it was fucking nuts. And you could go to a game that's 1-0 and have just as great of a time, I guess. But I think 11-10 is a little more fun.
In hockey, game one is usually the feeling out game. So this was unexpected. And I think...
the lead changes, though. Man, nuts.
I think game two's got to be slower, I think. Now they're going to kind of know what each other's... Because they only played twice in the regular season, and the last time they played was like in February.
Yeah, they'll play tomorrow, but right now it's 1-0 for the funnest city in America over the city where Trump lives in. Take that. All right. Aside from that, I also want to tip my hat to the Golden State Warriors. They proceeded to the NBA Finals. They will play Cleveland, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Rockets did not make it easy for them. They balled. They came to ball without one of their top two stars, Chris Paul, CP3. He hurt his hamstring about a week ago, and they just weren't able to get him going in time. They felt like maybe he could have hobbled out there, but he would have been, I guess, more of a detriment. So early on, the team got up to at least I know at the end of the first quarter they were up double digits or close to, and then by halftime it was just, I think it was 11. In the third quarter, Golden State came out blistering, and once they got to about an 8 to 10 point lead, I don't think the Rockets got closer than maybe 2 possessions, 6 points or so. They just couldn't do it, and they started playing a little bit too sloppy. I know what got them to the dance was the 3-point shot. They're a really high-scoring team. They got held under 100, I think, all 5 games, or sorry, the last 5 games, and so that's what got them to the dance. But not everything has to be a three goes. They shot 90 times and 44 were threes, and they were like 7 of 44. They were cold, and a lot of them were wide open, so they just choked.
It's kind of
they got the open shot, so it wasn't a 4 shot. It wasn't a low percentage shot. It was a shot that, I mean, lower percentage than a dunk and a layup, but clean looks, and they just missed, man. These guys couldn't put it down at home. It's the second time in a row. 2 teams at home lost the Game 7.
I am not interested in the NBA Finals. Can I tell you why? Tell me
This is the 4th time in a row it's the same 2 teams?
No, I'm okay with that. What I'm not okay with is I feel like of all the runs, this is the weakest both of those teams have been. Right? Golden State doesn't have that invincible feeling they've had in the past. LeBron just doesn't have the supporting cast he's had in the past. So I feel like whoever comes out of this is still not going to be better than any of those other teams. So
the second
I
half
don't really care
that the Golden State Warriors played yesterday, this is what made them tough. They were making their shots, especially Curry and Durant, but they played D. So they're actually one of the better defensive teams, but everyone highlights their offense, with the exception of Curry, really. But I would agree. I mean, Curry probably is still not. He's not what he was about 2 years ago, but he's still pretty damn good. But Durant is as solid as they come. Maybe, I don't know. To me, it's a little played out, but we got 3 TVs, so one can always be on mute if I got something better to do. That's for sure. They start on Thursday, so good luck to both of them. And may the best team win. I mean, on paper, I think G State runs them. That's Cleveland's. That's not definitely Cleveland's best team. In fact, from the team that beat them a few years ago, they didn't have Durant, and Cleveland doesn't have Irving or Love. Love, I think he's really going through the concussion problems.
Yeah,
is he going to be ready to go?
He should, right?
They were saying something about the lights were hurting him. They were keeping him in the locker room because the lights were hurting him. He didn't even come out and sit at the bench. So maybe he's back. I don't know.
I don't know. If I were ever to trip and fall, I hope I would fall on Kevin Love because he's soft.
I want to congratulate Michael Bisping on an outstanding career. He retired yesterday via his podcast, and that's it. No more Michael Bisping, nearing the age of 40. Former UFC middleweight champ, former Tough 3 winner. Had 2 coaching stints and 20 wins in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, 29 appearances. I believe both are records, either his clearly or he's tied with. Soon to be broken because like the Poiriers and Cerrone's. I mean, there's some that are younger and they'll get to it, but still, for as far as we are into the sport, very admirable. And very sad to hear that his eye was an issue that really made him want to retire. And by that, I don't mean his right eye, which is the one that's had the previous injury. If you'll notice, whenever the Fox cameras zoom in, it's a little bit crossed at times, just a little bit. That's something that was going to be delayed till his career was over because it was so complicated. They were going to be able to right the ship, fix it, and he would be able to see out of it no problem. But it was something that they wanted to wait to until the end of the career. Now, there's times where we'll look in the camera and it doesn't look like it's off, but then there's other times where it does. It's no big deal. He still goes out there and does his job. But apparently when Kelvin Gastelum knocked him out, he started having troubles with the other eye. So that right there is like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And if you think about it, let's just say he comes back and fights one more time, whether it's in the UK or whatever. I think he probably started figuring, other than the money, which I don't think he's in need of because the GSP fight probably paid him well. And it sounds like he's, this gym he's got with Cub, the gig with Fox, maybe he'll move over to ESPN, the podcast, and other things I see him plugging probably are enough to, make him comfortable. So aside from that, which in this fight, he'd revert back to his normal contract, there's no pay-per-view points, what would he have to gain? I mean, let's just say it was Rockhold. Or even Hendo out of retirement, and he did a trilogy. I mean, how often do the guys really play the trilogy card? It's good for about a week, and then every once in a while, like, Baroni's kind of like pushing Frank Shamrock on Twitter, and Shamrock's telling him, well, I beat you, and they've been going back and forth. So every once in a while that might pop up, but like you don't hear Vanderlei say, hey, Rampage, I got you 2 times, you only got me once, even though they might make a 4th out of it. Kane, I mean, I guess it's good in the moment, so I don't know that coming out of it, what would be the big deal other than if they bring it up, you could have something to say. Going out on top, is that really even better than being a champion at one point? It probably isn't, so he probably made the right decision.
I would think so, but I know he wouldn't have delayed it so long if he didn't have that opportunity, right? He's in a weird situation where you're right, there are certain matchups that normally probably wouldn't pay as much, but because of the way he is and because of some of the heat that he's had in some of these fights, I think they could have paid him pretty well. I mean, you could do the Anderson fight again or something, right? Like, there's just so many of those fights that I think people wanted to see again. Rockhold, Hendo, that maybe he didn't feel like, I'm going in there against a youngster and I need to really be careful. Like, you're probably going up against somebody that was similar in his skill set. So, towards the end, I mean, if you can just pull one more paycheck, I get it. But I think he made the right decision.
Dan?
I'm actually trying to look up to see what our pollers are saying. I know I'm pretty sure we'll touch this topic in a bit as far as his retirement goes. But yeah, I mean, you guys make great points. It's hard that door is kind of always proverbially open. But I gotta say, it was pretty warming to see everybody on Twitter. I don't know if you guys caught that. I know we had a Twitter reaction piece up on Junkie. But just to kind of see all the fighters and people in the community, non-fighters even, just people in the industry kind of talking about their favorite Bisping moments, kind of makes you realize or ask that question, like you just said, goes, what else are you going to really come back for? Or, I mean, there are things, sure, you guys threw out a couple examples there, but yeah, man, you really look at it, overachieving is the word that kind of comes to mind, and he really overachieved, and that's something that's hard to do in this sport, right, guys? I mean, usually it's 9 times out of 10, 11 times out of 10, I dare say, you're not going to hit your mark in a sport this hard and cutthroat.
Yeah, I mean, even before the Rockhold win, I think he had like 4 leading into the Rockhold win, and one of them was Anderson Silva. Think about by seconds how that could have not even gotten him to the Rockhold win. But when he did get to the Rockhold fight, 2-3 weeks, no pressure, filming a movie in Toronto or something like that. They bring him in, and he probably figured, hey, I'll just throw these until whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And he becomes world champion, and he put it on Rockhold. So that's perseverance, you know what I mean? Always continuing to be out there. Hard work, eventually meeting a bit of luck, and being able to triumph. I'm not calling it a lucky punch. He knew where he was aiming. But what I mean is
the situation.
I guess his punch landing and the other guy not. That's what I mean. I'm not trying to say it was a lucky luck in that regard, because I don't believe too much in lucky punches unless it's really one of those, like you see in the movies when you hit the bully with a roundhouse or something. But again, it's a Hall of Fame career for sure, and he's got things to fall back on. So, and you know what? He took the time to decide. But you're right. This will lead into our daily debate. So we'll stop there. I guess I just wanted you guys to react to his decision. So congrats to Michael Bisping again. Also, today's guest will be Sean Wheelock. He will be calling bare knuckle fighting championships, and I just goofed. Apologies to Sean. I know he lives in the Central Time Zone, so when I was communicating with him, I meant to say 1 Central, and I wrote Eastern. Maybe out of habit. I use Eastern a lot. And so he's sitting there like, hey, I'm waiting on your call. And I'm like, what? Oh, shit. So apologies to Sean. We will get him here in about 45 minutes. He'll be one of 3 guests. Our other guests are actually fighting each other, Gian Villante and Sam Alvey. They'll both come in the second hour. So it'll be fun to catch up with all 3. Sean also was chosen by Art Davey to present him at this year's UFC Hall of Fame, as Art Davey will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, into the Pioneer Wing. So very cool. Lots of things going on with Sean. And, of course, him and Boss Rudin have been calling some fights. Karate, your world dance. So it'll be great to catch up with him. And he's also a big soccer fan, too. So maybe pick his brain a little bit about
the
best World
club
Cup.
in all of soccer.
Correcto Mundo. And the World Cup coming up. It's going to be a blast. I don't know if you've already figured out your schedule for. Have you already seen when Peru's playing or Mexico or anything?
I didn't even know that's out.
Yeah, they did that a few months ago.
The schedule?
The schedule.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Hey, speaking of soccer, one of the few things I can chime in on.
It's like a rave. They don't tell you. You go to some liquor store and they tell you where to show up and play. I mean, all this is planned out.
No, I know that, but
we went to a World Cup.
I didn't know that the times and all that were
already set. It's all set.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you guys saw. I just saw the highlight, of course, but one of the few guys I can actually claim to liking because I said on the show. But my boy Ramos, Sergio Ramos.
He's your boy?
Huh?
Well, what do you mean?
That's one of the few jerseys I own.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's my
So
Real Madrid jersey.
oh, he's being sued for $1 billion
Yeah, he
by
is.
some lawyer in Egypt, apparently, because Mo Salah from Liverpool, the guy that got driven into the ground,
Right.
he may or may not play. First, we were hearing, oh, yeah, he's going to be able to shake it off. But I was reading a little bit where people were translating and saying the word tear. Now, granted, that's Cain Velasquez territory,
Right,
and
yeah.
Demetrius Johnson and Woodley, they all had tears in the labrum. But, you know, they're not. He's not grappling. But I still believe you have to use your upper body. I don't know if he's going to play with that or not.
Right.
It could be a slight tear. It could be something more severe. Who knows? But I also saw dislocated shoulders. So they popped that in place, like Danny, or not Danny Glover, but Mel Gibson in the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd like to hear something a little bit more firm. It could be that they're just keeping their spirits up. Maybe he won't make it in time for the first one, but he will in the second, which is kind of like what would have happened with CP3 had they made it. I heard he wouldn't have even been able for the first game, but they were targeting Game 3 if the Rockets had advanced. So, But yeah, Ramos, man. There's one angle that leads me to believe that he knew he was going to drive him to the ground. I don't think he was going to drive him to injure him. I really don't. But at least he knew he was going to drive him to the ground. But I could have sworn that day, after watching a few replays, it was just we got tangled and your arm wound up in a fucked up situation. It's actually Robin Black, your boy.
Yeah, I saw
he
that.
did one of those breakdowns. But it's already been pointed out, so it's not me trying to highlight the work that he does, because I think he does work, and he's on to something here with all these street fight breakdowns and things like that. But he actually targeted the wrong shoulder. Like, he noted that the elbow was hyperextended in the shoulder, but it's the one that's gotten, he's got the sling on, and the one that they've diagnosed is the left shoulder. So people already pointed it out, and I'm not sure if he even bothered with it or not. He's trying his best, but again, he does a great job. But anyway, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, man, that's getting crazy out there. I don't know. I mean, I wonder if at some point that guy might need extra security. Soccer's a big deal.
Yeah.
Soccer is a big deal to a lot of people, and I'm not kidding, and I'm not over-exaggerating when I say it's life or death to some people.
It has been.
Oh yeah, Colombia.
Yeah.
Escobar. That's a good documentary. We haven't said this in about 5 years.
30 for 30, right?
I guess it's a 30 for 30, and it was called Surviving Escobars. It talks about Pablo Escobar, and I think the other guy's name was Andres Escobar. He was a defenseman for Colombia in the 1994 World Cup. He put in an own goal. You know what that is, right?
No.
When you make it into your own goal, whether it's a mistake, it wouldn't be intentional, but and it cost Colombia a chance to advance, and they actually had a real fun, exciting team that I'm not sure they would have made it to the end and won it, but I think they were predicted to at least come out of the group and do well and lift the country. And that, aside from the money that was probably wagered, it didn't go over well with some people. And when he got back to Colombia, he was killed.
Wow. My buddy
Joe,
Joe,
at the height of the cartel stuff that was over there.
Shout out to my buddy Joe, who's in Colombia right now. He posted pictures of Escobar's mansion and all these spots and stuff.
Oh, really?
That you see from the show.
Fun Size is there too.
Makovsky?
Yeah.
Wow, right on.
Oh, because this manager's Hector Castro. He's Colombian. I wonder if they're back there for an event or just a party or what. Okay. Calls? All right, let's do it. 866-522-2846. That's the number to call in.
The shaka?
Let me see here. I already goofed up once. Yeah. Okay. We're good to go until first hour is wide open. 866-522-2846. Brandon from Louisville. What's up?
Now that the European Championships are done, we can finally focus on the most exciting soccer tournament in sports, and that is the U.S. Open Cup. Guys, are you pumped?
Always fired up.
Yeah, it was big. At one point, Goz and I were ultras for the Galaxy, and we watched quite a few games on TV, went to quite a few games, and we even had a tradition for like 5 years running. We went and spent 4th of July at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. But little by little, we just distanced ourselves a little bit from that brand of soccer. It was just To me, the word for
It's
me is
gotten
it's
better, though.
slower. Yeah, it's slower than what I'm used to or what I want to see.
Well, next week, Louisville City Football Club is hosting the New England Revolution. We get a chance to pull the upset on an MLS club. So, go City.
Are you guys MLS?
No.
Oh.
No, we're USL. Same as the Lights, Vegas.
Okay.
Get a home match against a Division I club.
Yeah.
So the reason I called, and I know it's a day late, but I expected y'all to take yesterday off. I got a stun gun.
Okay.
Do you mind if I stun gun somebody?
Not at all.
Depends who it is.
Hopefully it's me.
I am going to stun gun Kevin in Chicago. And anybody else, quite honestly, that throws out the Dana White is just a scumbag promoter who only cares about making up money. He doesn't care about the sport. You know what, Kevin, and everybody else? No fucking shit. It's Dana White's job to care about making money. Dana White and the Fertitta brothers spent the first 10 years of their ownership of the UFC building the sport. So if Dana wants to make some fucking money on the way out, God bless him. He has every fucking right. And if you think he's still not trying to build the sport so he can make more money, you're a fucking moron. You want to go out there and say you don't see this in amateur wrestling? You know what else you don't see in amateur wrestling? People paying $65 for a fucking pay-per-view. You know why? Because there ain't enough people that give a shit.
Well, I'll tell you what. When he said that, I knew we could spend some time on it. And today we can. We have an hour. So let's do it, okay? I side with both guys in their calls, all right? But I side more with Brandon because, yeah, you're right. He's in this to make money. I don't think he's ever really shied away from that. And I know that the big beef for fans is that he should have shared more with the athletes. When promotions did share more with the athletes, where did they go? Down the tubes. So there's something to the formula of they need to have a ton of capital to fund basically the sport because of a lot of the things they do. But at the same time, there probably is a middle ground where, unlike the other promotions that eventually tanked for whatever reason, they probably still could give more to the fighters in different ways or create the opportunities for fighters to make more money and still then be able to bank what they have. But you know what? That's a whole other era. Remember, the Fertittas took home that big payday, and Endeavor, all they have is a bunch of credit to pay off. Yeah, Dana White's making a lot of money, but I mean, he's got to deal with all these athletes and all these problems, and he's part owner. He negotiated that. That's what the fighters need to do, is negotiate their deals to be better too. I think the fighters they could have done a better job themselves. It's not just going to be manna from heaven. Throw it, I'll eat it. And you got to go out there and perform. You got to go out there and make yourself be more of an asset to the company, and they will pay you. Now again, are they still going to pay you what you're worth? We don't know, man. The sport's too young to even determine that. And eventually, can you floss too much and get cut like Yair? Yeah, I suppose it could go wrong if you go too far. They didn't want to meet Rory's demands, apparently. They didn't want to meet Yair's demands, apparently. So, in both cases, I wish they would have stayed with the UFC, but I guess the UFC just said, well, we really don't need you. All we need is these 3 letters and a bunch of fighters on a fight card and some main eventers, and the train keeps going. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So
I see both sides as well.
Yeah.
But I think what people have problems with when it comes to Dana White is, nobody's dumb enough to think that he's not in it to make money. And who at their job doesn't want to make the most amount of money that they can? All that other people are saying is, in a situation where people are saying, hey, we just don't even come close to getting compensated as much as other sports and what you're making here, maybe just don't flaunt it. There's certain times where I think he could hold back on certain comments.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Or
I thought you meant
Instagram,
those vlogs he used to do.
Posts or stuff like that where, if people are complaining, I only make this much money, and maybe don't post a picture of 40 Ferraris or whatever, right? Or snow at your house. maybe save that one for a personal.
It's been a while though. I think he's changed.
But I think like little things like that is what people have a problem with him. I'm not so sure it's just the fact that he's trying to make money. Because who wouldn't?
I think he could create opportunities. Like I said, bring another sponsor onto the Reebok kit. I think that's something they could go to Reebok now, not wait till the contract's over and say, what can we do? You know what I mean? And right away it would start putting some money into the pockets of the fighters. And I also believe that there could be better communication with the fighters as far as what they need to do to accomplish their goals of making more money. Other than win. You know, you got to win. You got to win. What else can you do? What is it you're looking for? You know what I mean? And but I don't think they're going to unless the fighters ask. And even if they do, I don't know if they're going to reveal all their cards because that is part of the money-making machine. It's we know what the secret sauce is. We're not going to tell everybody what it is.
Yeah, I mean, because right now it's essentially it's just their what do they call this? Their summit meetings. That's really what they're providing as far as their career and how it pertains to the UFC as far as conducting themselves, policies. But those are only once a year. I mean, I know they stepped it up, last year, which maybe
once every other now,
which they may actually tone down with the events and fights that took place at it. They may tone those down, but still, essentially, it's just a once a year thing where anybody who's been a part of corporate America knows how those feel. Even when you have those quote unquote quarterly meetings, you're like, all right, the store or the company or whatever your segment that you work for, you all round up and you hear the typical brouhaha. But chances are, as an employee, there are like real day-to-day problems that you deal with, other employees deal with that probably aren't getting solved. So I think that's something that's just kind of consistent with any company, and it all kind of circles back to, well, that's where things like unions were formed. Not just not in sports. I mean, construction and in certain in employment fields. So. Really, it's mixing your apples for oranges, but to me, it's kind of just the same. It's still a very similar problem and argument that exists really throughout all corporate entities.
I would still argue that the fighters that complain the most haven't done the most on their end to maximize their earning potential, and I don't think the UFC is entitled to just give it away either.
Right. I always go back to my analogy because I know where you're going with that, and there's great points, and I think like a middle ground where, like, for example, the Reebok kit, that's like a good middle ground for that situation. But overall, as far as promotionally, I just think it goes down to that the UFC needs to lay the road down, but it's up to the fighter to walk down that road and kind of like what you're talking about, George, how they're going to walk down that road, because that's going to be indicative of how their career goes, whether we like it or agree with it or not, right? So, but I think that the promotion, though, they do have to provide that road, and there are things, whether it's the deal or other things you guys talked about, where you could really argue that road probably not complete, probably not the best road for these guys to make their statements and walk down.
Good stuff, Brandon. You initiated some good talk over here.
And let's real quick not pretend that this is a Dana White only thing. Everybody's always, well, other than Ford, no one really calls out Scott Coker. Somebody asked Floyd Nelson how much money he made for his showing up and signing a contract and his fighter opponent backing out. Both were just the same guys.
See you, buddy. Take care. All right, on the way out, because we have to take a break, I will say this. I took the time to listen to a scrum that Scott Coker had, and he was asked, and I believe it was Shamat Karsandu who asked him about Roy Nelson. He said they're going to sit down and talk and work out a compensation for that. We had heard that he wasn't going to get paid, but I don't think, and I went back and I rewound it, and it sounded to me like they're going to sit down and probably agree on, well, here's 10 grand for all your flights and troubles and training partners, or 20, or who knows what. We had a whole daily debate on it, but I did go back and catch that, and I saw it. I should have brought it up on it, because this was about 3-4 days ago, so I should have brought it up at least yesterday on Friday. So big of Scott to do that. He probably didn't have to, I guess, by the letter of the law, which is his the contracts that they agreed to. But it sounded like something was going to happen. What that amount's going to be, I have no idea. But at least we heard it from the man's mouth. All right, it's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We will be right back.
I get paid to say things in this cool voice. They get paid to be lame. Here are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The Vegas Golden Knights aren't just the talk of the NHL and the sports world. They're the talk of the town in Las Vegas. Follow the money while you follow this expansion team's quest for the Stanley Cup on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook, the Vegas Stats and Information Network. Odds are you'll like what you hear on SiriusXM Channel 204. Did I read that right? Okay. I blew it. What? The point is that the Vegas Stats and Information Network are talking about it on Sirius Channel 204.
Do we want to start again?
No, we're good. We're good. It goes through me off because he was doing the.
Because
Sammy
Shanko was
Sweetheart
giving
sign.
the boo sign to
The boo this man.
the Golden Knights.
Are you
the
booing
Golden Knights.
the Golden Knights, Shango?
He's
San
a
Jose
San Jose
Sharks.
Sharks.
I mean, okay, if that's the Golden Knights, what are the Sharks?
Well, no, they're my second. I mean, I'm happy for them. They knocked out my team.
Yeah.
Still.
So at that point, just sit down, cross your legs, listen to the show. There is no thumbs down to be done. This team's winning. Your team's at home.
Did you like their pre-show yesterday? The show before their show?
I just watched what was happening in the Toshiba Plaza. Is that what it's called?
No, like you remember when the jet landed and they cut the jet in half? They did a whole thing.
I didn't see it.
It was okay. I thought the jet was better.
What'd they do for the Capitals?
Launched a catapult on them. It shattered the ice and they shot arrows at them.
Okay. Well, those guys came to play, that's for sure. It was a fun game. 6-4 is a lot of scoring, but it almost felt like a video game, you know?
Their best player, and you can argue,
Ovechkin?
and you can argue our best player, Fleury. They both had bad games.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't follow it that closely, I guess. But, yeah, if you give up 4 goals, that's obviously not a good game. And as far as Ovechkin, I heard his name come up a lot, but I can't remember if it was good or bad. I just know he was out there. He was balling. But was he responsible for any goals?
Did you say that?
Puckin?
Puckin?
Yeah, I guess he was puckin. Scott from Utah, what's up, buddy?
Your chin's weak, boy. You guys hear Jason Knight talking shit in the ring?
Yeah, man. You know, he got in his head, too. He got in Makwan and Mirkani's head because at that point in time, Mirkani stopped striking like he was. You know, he was kind of being a gunslinger. He was really comfortable, and then he got knocked down twice, and I think he knew, let me do some of this wrestling here, you know what I mean? And then he never got back to the striking, which I believe he hurt him towards the end, and elected not to continue because you could tell that one was one of those chicken dance movements from Knight, but Knight has the ability to recover too.
I love that kid. I mean, I think he's some kind of a skid, but man, that's something about that kid. He's just raw and he's got so much passion and fire in him. He's got a little bit of craziness too. It's just I got to watch him when he fights. I just wonder now, more and more fighters starting to rethink going to the ground once they knock somebody down. Because it seems like you just let the opponent almost recover unless you got a sick guillotine.
Whoa, he did it twice.
I would say
it's the weird thing.
I would say capitalize and just throw strikes. If you're afraid of getting countered, well, guess what, man? I mean, you should be afraid of a lot of things because look what happened to Mads Bullard.
Burnell.
Burnell.
Yeah,
Mads
yeah.
Burnell. He didn't get countered with strikes. He got countered with a ninja choke.
No.
You know, so anything can happen. I would believe it all goes back to this. If you could start a fight with you having all your wits about you and the other guy in a rocked position, like you spun him around, you know, the guy's introducing him and the other guy's spinning around on a bat, and then they say start, wouldn't you think, oh, wow, I'm at an advantage here?
It's my moment.
Well, that's exactly what's happening in the middle of a fight. You just rocked him, and you can see it in him. Go in there and capitalize. Yeah, the other guy might throw something in land, but still, I mean, that could have happened at the beginning of the fight when it was 50-50. So, yeah, I think it's a big mistake, actually.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, like if you got a guy hurt on the feet, taking him down. But it's funny. I think more of a big picture way to look at this, Scott, is it's funny because you'll see guys that maybe are more experienced. Jason Knight's got over 20. He's got 25 fights. He was much more experienced than Makwan Amirkhani, yet was doing that kind of a move where you could say maybe that's inexperience, but it's not so much experience or inexperience. It's just the guy's wiring. So what I'm trying to say is, we'll look at 2 weeks back. Look at the guy I've been calling the next guy at light heavyweight, Dominic Reyes. What happened when he hurt Jared Cannonier? What was most impressive is when he hurt Jared Cannonier is he stayed calm. His heartbeat didn't raise. He kept picking his shots until he got Jared Cannonier out of there. And that's kind of what you got to look at, I guess, is a fighter, what is he doing when he gets a guy hurt? Now, if you see a young fighter like a Dominic Reyes, being calm when he gets a guy hurt, that's a really good sign. Whereas it's a little more troubling sign of what you're talking about, Scott, where Jason Knight, more experienced fighter, but like what Ghost said, he dropped back twice when he had the guy hurt. So it's one of those things you throw your hands up in the air, but you kind of just take these notes as you watch the fight.
That was an entertaining fight. And that Wonder Boy Till fight, man, the first 2 rounds, I was so tense. I was like, oh my God, some shit's going to happen here. But then, as the rounds dragged on, the fight dragged on, I was like, God damn, somebody do something. Wonder Boy, I mean, he's a counter puncher, so that fight could, it leads to boring fights sometimes. But man, he lost it because I don't think he did enough.
Spot on. That's exactly what happened. The first round was fun. It was a feeling out process. I understood that one guy had trouble making weight, and maybe from his side he just didn't want to make a mistake. And I know the other guy point fights. Second round, okay, a little bit more of the same thing, but you got to remember by now someone could be up 2-0. I want to see urgency out of the guy I thought that needed to bring it, which was the guy from Liverpool, and I still wasn't seeing it. But at the same time, the guy who I thought was up 2-0, he just experienced some unfortunate calls himself, especially the fight that ended in a draw where he could have been a world champion. So where's the urgency to step on it and make sure that in case they didn't call it 2-0 and they called it 1-1, that maybe you might want to take the lead here and go up 3-1. I mean, that's the part that's frustrating for me, man. The hell with this tactical stuff and everything else. I mean, once you get past 10 minutes, you better start doing something. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for whatever the feeling they're going through right now, especially the guy that lost, he's got to be feeling sick to his stomach, Stephen Thompson. Although he's the nicest guy ever, and seems like he's got successes out of this sport, so maybe he doesn't. But as a competitor, he's got to feel bad.
Normally, you'd give him a pass. However, it's happened before.
It's happened too, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One last thing, I know people are bitching about the UFC's pay scale, but have you guys seen the Bellator pay list? Especially for the lower tier fighters, some of those guys are getting $1,200.
They agreed to it. That's a smaller organization, and those guys agreed to it. I'm done with feeling sorry for fighters. They agreed to it. If that's the opportunity, that's the opportunity. I guess they can try somewhere else. They can either try the reality show. Dana White Contender Series commits to $5,000 and $5,000. LFA, maybe they pay more, but all these people, that's the way it is in this sport. That's the way it is in boxing too, man. Some boxers don't make $750. I've seen that before. $1,200, $5,000. It's until you get to the elite that's when it matters. That's why you got to make sure you let the whole world know what you did, what you're gonna do, and what you did, so that your next fight you start making more and more. Thanks, Scott, for the call. One more, Russ from Boston. What's up, Russ?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Not much, and you?
Pretty good. I'm very good. Hey, did you? I don't know if you guys talked about it. Did you guys check the George St. Pierre interview out on Joe Rogan last week?
No, give me some cliff notes.
I don't remember exact things, but he did come off very relaxed and very likable, and he just seemed to be very much in a good mood. And I've heard George do interviews before, and obviously not sitting down for 3 hours, but he looked really relaxed, and he seemed to be in real good spirits, and he told some jokes. He was pretty funny. To me, he came off a lot more likable than I've ever seen him anywhere, really.
I like when he broke down the whole Nick Diaz controversy and all that. I thought it was really funny when doing
the poisoning.
Yeah.
Well, what is the deal with that? What was his version?
No, he just
Nick saying
being
he poisoned his
stupid about
IV or something.
Yeah, somebody did it. Or
Yeah, he was just making light of it, kind of like what Russ said, and I agree because as someone who's followed GSP's career, that was one of the things that kind of irked me was, come on, man, just say something outside of the, because if you know people who speak French and would hear when they translate something GSP would say, whether it was kind of off camera or not, like he sounds like a regular dude, but and from people who knew him, he just never brought any sense of that to the interview or anything like that. So watching him, I watched the episode as well, Russ, and I sentiment that he came off very likable, and I like that. Like if he could translate that George St. Pierre, not that he needs it at this point, but I'm just saying, I think that would silence a lot of perception on the guy.
I think that's why he's like that, because he's at this point in his career. Before, everybody expected so much out of him. Now nobody expects anything out of him, so he can just kind of be chill.
Yeah.
He's got that fuck you money, right? Like he doesn't. If he doesn't fight again, he's fine. Hey, one more thing, guys. I'm excited for this Benavidez Pettis fight. I every so often I think about how we would look at Benavidez if there was no Demetrius Johnson, because other than Johnson, he's been like the biggest, the biggest winner and the biggest star in that flyweight division. I mean, I don't know if he would have been a much bigger star than what Demetrius is now, but he'd be a surefire Hall of Famer. I mean, he might still be, but man, I just think about it like guys like that who their only losses are to like one guy, and that one guy's a champion. And I just think what could be, what could have been actually.
Yeah. All right. I'll tell you a couple things. I think the fight's going to be a great fight, but whereas before I would clearly pick Benavidez, and I probably still will, over almost anybody but Demetrius, now he's coming off a layoff, and Pettis looked good bouncing off his loss to Cejudo. So this is going to be a great fight. And I saw Benavidez yesterday at the gym. He channeled his inner Marcos Galval. He actually dyed his hair, but he's in good spirits. So I will roll with Benavidez, but you're right, Ross. You're right, Russ. He would be at the top of the list of fighters who never won a world title, but you can call great. He only lost to Dominic Cruz and Demetrius Johnson, and he got a split decision loss out of both of them. So there's one judge that thought he won their fight. Now he just needs to keep winning and force that third fight. He fought at 35 before, but I don't know that he'd go back up. He just has to stack up checks and maybe hope Demetrius loses or earn that third shot. But his style, which is very unique, and I told him that yesterday. I go, man, you can rock anything. Like he had a mohawk here not too long ago. He went with the dye. He is unique as far as that's, and no one's going to tell him otherwise. But when it does come to the promotion side of things, I wish there was a little bit more he could offer so that he could force that third shot. But as long as he's just going through the motions and winning and taking care of things, I think the promotion is going to be like, what else do we have? Who else do we have? Until they're finally forced to play a hand. Good stuff from all of our callers. Thank you very much, Russ, for calling in. We got to go to break. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close, and we'll be right back.
They are the stretch marks on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
The hardest working man in comedy is back with Kevin Hart, the Irresponsible Tour, and we have your chance to win a trip for two to see Kevin Hart live. One lucky winner will receive airfare, hotel stay, and a pair of tickets to a show on June 7th at the Hollywood Bowl, plus the opportunity to meet Kevin at the show. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Kevin Hart at Hollywood Bowl before May 31st. No additional purchase is necessary.
When I get bummed out
What?
next week, I believe Joey Diaz is filming a special, and it's here in Vegas.
Yeah, but it's
We
on the
can't
4th
go.
on Monday. And it's in downtown Las Vegas.
On the 4th?
Yeah.
So we can go.
Yeah.
July 4th?
What's today?
June 4th.
June 4th.
Oh, wow.
I think it's either the 4th or the 5th. I know it's basically a 2-day thing, and they're splitting the 6 comics into 2 days. I thought he was on the first one.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, check out Ad Mad Flavor. I think there's a poster there, and you'll have your answer.
Let me know if you guys go.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him. I'd like to get him in studio because I was looking to see about getting him in studio. These are iTunes reviews that we have gotten. There's Steve Walker. What's up, Steve? These are iTunes reviews that we've gotten from Junkie Nation, and it's your way to rate the show. So iTunes, this is important because these help in the algorithm for your placing under what's trending and what's hot and, you know, your ranking, I guess, on iTunes. So this, along with downloads, is important for the show. So thank you for everyone that's ever done this. I've read every single one for the past 10 years. Sometimes I fall behind, so when you hear the date, you'll probably go like, oh, by the way. But here we go. Let's see if we can catch up. The last one was by JD from the IE. This next one is by Brinkstar53 on July 22nd, 2017. Amazing show. 5 stars. An amazing MMA podcast. George and Goes are great at what they do and some of the best interviewers in the business. I enjoy all the calls from the junkies and hope to get to a gathering someday. Been listening for 5 years now and will enjoy them for years to come. Congrats on the milestone, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you, Brinkstar53. Rick D, 1982, on July 24th, 2017. He says, go to for all things MMA, 5 stars. GG and Goes are great hosts for the only show that kept me on with SiriusXM. This show keeps me level through my work week. It's like having 2 good friends talking MMA with you while you're at work or drive. I recommend the show to all my friends and family every chance I get. Keep the great shows rolling, boys. Thank you, Rick, 1982. And yes, if every one of you got one friend or a family member to become a listener, we would double our audience. So anytime you do it, don't feel like, well, I only know one hardcore MMA. Tell that hardcore MMA fan. And if we're not their cup of tea, then we're not their cup of tea. But who knows? Maybe they'll fall in love with the show as well. So we appreciate those shares and likes and these types of feedback, man. It really means a lot. Especially these ones on iTunes. They carry a lot of weight. This next one's by Tony C, 22, on July 28th, 2017. MMA Junkie Radio, everything you want and more, 5 stars. I've been listening to GG and Goes for about a year and a half. Been watching MMA Hardcore since 07 and listening to MMA related podcasts since they began. MMA Junkie Radio is the prime example of what I want to hear. Great guests, fun and interesting interviews, and a complete absence of ego from the fellas in charge. If I could come up with a show, if I could sum up the show in one word, it would be consistency. Everyone involved in the show is great at what they do. Hopefully soon I can be part of the show and call in. Gracias por todo, boys. Tony from San Mateo. One more. I know we're pushing it. I know I'm going to give Danny a heart attack, but we're going to do it. Here we go. This one's from KD Linux, August 17, 2017. The title's Great Show, 5 stars. Always on top of all the events. Great show, a must-have. There you go.
Oh, how'd you fit that one in?
Thank you, KDE Linux.
Thank you.
They all mean a lot. The 5 stars mean a lot. It helps. If you've never done it, take the time to do it. Hey, we're big boys. We've taken the 1 stars and 2 stars and read them all. But you know what? The ones that mean more are the ones that at least give us the feedback and tell us what we're doing wrong. And the reason I say that is because there have been 1 or 2 or 3 stars. We fixed a few things, done a few tweaks, and then guess what? We earned a 4th or 5th star from people. So bring it, you know. Just hearing where you're from and what you like about the show, it means a lot. All right, I'll continue, I think, when we have some pockets and see if we can get through them all here. It's not like there's that many, but they're piling up. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back with Sean Wheelock.
On the run, gonna have me.
Walking up? That's funny. All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Like Go said, Sean will be joining us soon in about 30 seconds here. Sean Wheelock is who we're talking about. You can follow him on Twitter at Sean Wheelock. He's covered the sport for many years and, of course, had a long run with Bellator MMA. Now he's staying busy. Seen him with Boss Rudin, calling karate, and then we're going to talk some bare knuckle fighting championship as well. And so what Goes is talking about is Art Davie will be inducted into the UFC's Hall of Fame on July 3rd here during International Fight Week. Excuse me, July 5th. July 3rd is the World MMA Awards. And the presenter for Art Davie, the man that takes that honor, is Sean Wheelock, who co-authored the book with Art Davie, if you recall. And he joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Sean? How you doing?
Hey, George. What's going on? Ghost, what's going on? I just got off the phone with Art. He said to tell you guys, hey, and I will lead off by saying, when you had Art in studio for the full 2 hours, a few weeks ago, that was outstanding. I was in Russia doing M1, and I listened to it on YouTube in my hotel room in St. Petersburg. It was fantastic. And you guys do so much for Art, and you've always been so supportive of me, so thank you. And it's always my pleasure to be on the program.
Well, thank you, man. We're really happy to have you here, and hopefully we'll have you here in studio come July when you are here to present Art. That's quite an honor, huh, to present Art Davey, your good friend, as he goes into the Hall of Fame. Let's start with that.
You know, it really, of whatever I've achieved professionally in my career in fighting and broadcasting when I was in soccer before, nothing compares to this. And I absolutely hoped that Art would ask me, but I wasn't going to say, hey, you need to ask me. That's just not what our friendship is based on. And he asked me. And then he told McCarthy, and John McCarthy, who's very close to both Art and myself. And John's one of my best friends, as well as Art being one of my best friends. And John and Art go back to the Gracie Academy all the way back to 1992 or 93. And John validated that. He said, great job, Art. He said, you know, Sean's the one you want. And that meant a lot to me. And, you know, Art is such a special person in my life. We literally speak on the phone every day. It's outside of my immediate family, which is my wife, my 2 daughters, and my mom. Then there's Art Davey. And so Art going into the Hall of Fame, just for him to be going in means so much to me, for me to be there, and then to be the one who's inducting him. It's just really, it's the highlight of my professional career by far.
Well, that's awesome. I can't wait. I'm never going to miss a Hall of Fame going forward. I missed a couple, and then the UFC really ramped it up and took it to another level. I hope that it gets to the level of something that blends WWE and football. I love both of them. I think there's a lot of energy and passion and tears of joy and sadness, and but it means so much to everybody that attends, whether it's the former, whether it's the previous Hall of Famers, or I guess the current ones, you know, but the ones that were previously inducted in another year, to the current superstars, to the fans that want to reflect. It's amazing, and I cannot stress how much MMA fans should go out of their way. If you're already setting the time aside for International Fight Week, come in and take in the UFC Hall of Fame ceremony. You won't be disappointed. Again, Art Davey being inducted this year, and his presenter, Sean Wheelock, joining us here on the hotline. All right, Sean, you said the word soccer. Let's do that one real quick, and then we'll migrate back to combat sports. Soccer, man, the World Cup. You excited?
I'm really excited. It's disappointing, obviously, the U.S. not going through. The U.S. will miss out on their first World Cup since 1986, which is insane if you think about it. 94, of course, the United States hosted, so that was automatic qualification. But 1990 through the last World Cup, every qualification in every one, either automatic in 94 or earning it through CONCACAF, and the miss out is tough. But as much as I'm a fan of U.S. soccer and the U.S. national side, I'm a huge soccer fan. Even though I haven't been a regular soccer commentator since 2009, I still love the sport. Of course, I watch the Champions League. I'm a big Manchester United supporter. I know it's going to offend a number of people listening. I apologize,
Not
but I'm
the
a
people
huge
that matter,
Manchester
Sean.
United
Exactly. Doesn't offend us.
The World Cup is great. I did a show called the World Football Phone-In on BBC Radio 5 for a lot of years. And the person I worked with on that show is a guy, he's an Englishman who's lived in Brazil a long time, great journalist and commentator named Tim Vickery. And Tim said virtually everyone who is a soccer fan around the world became a fan through watching the World Cup. And I really subscribe to that theory. You might have a fringe awareness or sort of support a club, but if you really become a hardcore soccer fan, your entry point is the World Cup. And I cannot wait. I'm actually going to be in Russia for M1, doing a show on the 15th in Orenburg, which is not a World Cup city. It's central Russia. But I will be in Russia during the World Cup, which is pretty cool. The World Cup starts on the 14th, I believe, 13th and the 14th. Mm-hmm. And I will be there for a show on the 15th. And I did the World Cup. I did, before I was fortunate enough to be hired by Pride. I did the World Cup in 2006. I was in Germany for 41 days, and that was a pretty amazing experience as a commentator.
Yeah, and not only is the USA out, Italy and the Netherlands are out. So the World Cup's going to be amazing either way, but those are countries that need to be in. The USA, okay, so they're not maybe a top 10 nation, but this is a nation that, you know, produces a lot of athletes, and one day I firmly believe that they could possibly become that. But, you know, their league is always taking, you know, next steps. And they're a CONCACAF power, so that's the disappointment there. But Italy and the Netherlands, think about all the history those two countries have produced, all the amazing athletes, and it's, oh man, that one stings to not have both of them there. But Either way, folks, I'm telling you, just like Sean said, if he said it, I'm sure he researched it. Become a fan of soccer, and do it through the World Cup if you have to. And come next year, when August rolls around, and you're trying to identify with an English Premier team, please join the Manchester United bandwagon. All right.
Well said. Thanks very much. I like that.
All right, let's talk about Bare Knuckle Fighting Championships. It goes down on Saturday, Sean, June 2nd. And it's a 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. It is a pay-per-view in Cheyenne, which I believe we researched it, and it's going to be 6,000 feet altitude, and a really, really fun card with a lot of familiar names for people. So let's talk about this.
So it's a really cool mix of professional boxers, MMA fighters. There's Kevin Jackson, who did fight in Bellator. He fought my friend Matt Udi, beat him on a cut when I was still in Bellator. But he made his name as a K1 fighter and is a really good kickboxer. Everybody on this card, as a prerequisite, they had to have fought professionally in either boxing, kickboxing, MMA, or Muay Thai. And in a lot of ways, it's like a Bellator reunion. All the people I'm going to see, DJ Linderman is on the card, and Nick Mamelis, and Tony Lopez,
Joey Beltran,
Eric Brindle. It's really cool. And then you have Sam Shoemaker, who's from the next state over from where I live. I live in Kansas. He's in Missouri, in southern Missouri, in the Lake of the Ozarks area. And he's a multi-time Golden Glove champion. He's 4-0, I believe, as a professional boxer. So you have people like that, all the way to Rico Rodriguez, of course, the former UFC heavyweight champion. Mm-hmm. It's a really interesting mix on the card of having people who have been big stars or could be big stars. But David Feldman, who's the promoter, and I know you had Dave on the show, and Dave, it's all credit to Dave Feldman. He's trying to do what Art Davey did 25 years later with Bare Knuckle. He resisted the temptation, and I think temptation is the right word, to make this a Legends event or an over 50 event, because the amount of big name, and I mean big name fighters, who were well past their best, who reached out to Dave. He could have had so much star power, but again, it would have looked like the senior PGA equivalent of fighting, and he didn't. So, again, you have somebody like Sam Shoemaker. You have somebody like Nick Mamelis, who's from Wyoming, who I just did a Nick Mamelis fight in Victory on Fight Pass last year. We had him in Bellator. Beth Rawlings is huge coming in. I know she was cut from the UFC, but she is a major star. I mean, I'm not saying pound for pound best, but if you would just say worldwide in MMA, the 5 biggest active female fighters, she's on that list right now. It is a really cool, fun card, and I'm psyched. Just like I love doing karate combat, I love commentating grappling, I love commentating MMA. I'm a combat sports guy. I'm a fight sports guy, and this really excites me. Oh, and by the way, I get to commentate with Antonio Tarver, which is very cool as well.
That is cool, yeah. And then Bobby Gunn. Talk about, he's like a linear champion when it comes to bare knuckles, right? He's on the card. I'm looking at the latest tweet, or one of the latest tweets from you.
Yep, Bobby Gunn. So he was a legitimate top 10 cruiserweight in the world. He fought Roy Jones Jr. last year, and what's now being called gloves boxing, which I love, and gloves boxing. Fought Roy Jones last year in Delaware. And Bobby Gunn claims that through a lot of fights that are undocumented, or maybe there's like cell phone video, or they show up on YouTube or Daily Motion, but Bobby Gunn, I believe, claims a record of 42-0. And I will tell you, Bobby Gunn's the real deal. And if he claims 42-0, he's probably like 242-0. He is a super cool guy, and I had a chance. I actually met Bobby Gunn through John McCarthy. They've been friends for a while. And I met Bobby Gunn last July. And I was asking him from a really technical standpoint to explain some of the differences of how he has to fight. Showed me the altering of the stance. He said he will dip his head in to try to get the opponents to break their hand on his forehead, something you would never do in glove boxing or MMA, but he'll dip his forehead in. He throws very few headshots. He's attacking the body. It's going to be extremely tactical. You know, I think there's sort of a visceral reaction to a lot of people, oh, knuckle, like it's going to be like a fight in a parking lot. But as you look at this, and as hopefully people listening will order the pay-per-view on Saturday and watch the fights, it's going to be really tactical, methodical striking. I think there's going to be a lot of finishes. I think it's going to be very exciting, but it's not just going to be brawls, because you cannot do that. The hands, it's true bare knuckle, the hands are wrapped, but 1 inch below the knuckle. So the hands are wrapped, the wrists are wrapped, the thumbs are wrapped, but on your four fingers on both hands, 1 inch below the knuckles. So you really have to pick and choose when you're throwing to the head and the velocity of your punches.
Sean, did I get it right as far as the altitude? Do you think that's going to come into play, and has the promotion warned the fighters to run some hills?
Yeah, the promotion's absolutely warned them. I was there in April. I met with the commission. Dave Feldman and I were there. I honestly didn't notice anything. Saying that, I did some push-ups and sit-ups in my hotel room, and that was it. I didn't notice a difference. Not saying that there won't be a difference. And again, I wasn't fighting and I wasn't evading and taking and throwing punches. But no, the fighters have been warned. They've been training. And this falls back to really Dave Feldman getting all experienced combat sports licensed professionals, where if this were a tough man contest, which it's the polar opposite of that, but if you had untrained guys, they might get found out quickly. But these are fighters who, in many cases, have fought around the world, and they'll figure it out. It could become a factor. However, it's 2-minute rounds, 5, 7, and 9 rounds scheduled. So I don't know. It's not like the old school 15-round boxing or even a current 5-round MMA. It could come into play. I'm not sure if it will, though. I don't think there'll be a noticeable effect, but there could be.
All right, yeah, it is an interesting factor. That's for sure, and hopefully some of the fighters game plan for that. And by the way, if you want to attend, it's $40 to get you in the door. It's at the City of Cheyenne Ice and Event Center, and again, this is on Saturday, 6 p.m. is locally when you want to get there. All right, Goes, what do you have for Sean Wheelock?
Sean, you kind of jumped in a little bit on something I wanted to talk about, and that's strategy and the differences between calling this type of fight and the way you would call boxing or MMA. How does one prepare for that? Like yourself, do you sit back and maybe see old footage and just press mute and just try and call it that way? Or how long did it take you to kind of get a groove on something like that?
I mean, the surprise, no surprise to you guys or anybody who knows me, I'm a huge fight nerd and fight history nerd. And about 10 years ago, my wife, she's English, and she was home visiting her family, and she found a book for me on the history of the Broughton rules and the London prize ring rules. It was a British publication, a book, and she bought it. And I've been rereading sections of that book, but just because I'm around gyms, believe me, I'm nobody's idea of a good fighter, even though I go to the training and then I get pummeled on a regular basis. But I'm around it. I'm in the lifestyle, and I always want to understand things. I want to understand positioning and turning. And post Bellator, I've had the opportunity to call a lot of professional boxing, which has really helped too. So hearing the awareness, and I'm huge on fighter preparation. I speak to every fighter on every fight. I give them the same interview time. I treat all fights and all fighters the same. If I had 2 0-0 Amis on an MMA card, or if I had a world title fight in the UFC, I would still prepare the same on every fight. So I get into Cheyenne tomorrow. The fights aren't until Saturday. I will sit down with all 24 fighters on the card. We'll talk strategy, what they have in mind. And I want to understand, are they going to swing big for the head and risk hurting their hands to get the finish? Or are they going to be like Bobby Gunn and be really tactical and try to angle and dip their forehead and attack the body? You know, in terms of training, I think a lot of fighters, especially the ones who come out of MMA, with the UFC and the Bellator veterans most especially, probably doing a lot of striking wearing their MMA gloves. Maybe not even the MMA training, but the regular MMA gloves. I'm sure a lot would have to have been throwing at least on the heavy bag and the speed bag completely bare-fisted. I don't know how practical it would be to put on 16-ounce training boxing gloves for bare knuckle. I imagine you're going to get a wide variety of answers from the 24 fighters on the card and exactly how they're preparing. And if you want to go back to UFC 1, you know, with the 8 guys and the 2 alternates, DeLucia and Jenkins, I'm sure there were 10 different preparations of those 10 different camps. You know, were you training striking? You know, Royce Gracie was training a lot of front kicks with John McCarthy going into UFC 1. Whereas Art Jimerson trained nothing on the ground. The late Kevin Rozier trained nothing on the ground. So I think it's probably going to be an evolutionary process. And bare knuckle 10, I imagine the fights and the athletes and the training will be a lot different from this first one on Saturday.
What about the second part of this equation, and that being Antonio Tarver? Anytime you work with someone for the first time, do you have any rituals or any traditions of how you like to kind of just discuss what the route you're going to take on the broadcast?
I'm very much into my preparation, and I figured out a long time ago, all I can control on a broadcast is my performance. And my performance is really based on my preparation. I work with a lot of different people. Antonio Tarver is awesome. I mean, he does phenomenal boxer, world champion. He's legitimately one of the best boxers of his generation. And he's done great things on Showtime. When I was still at Bellator on Spike, he was announcing when they briefly had PBC. He did those cards. You know, the guy was in Rocky Balboa playing Mason Dixon. So I'm not working with the neophyte. But when I do work with people who come in for the first time, I had a really fun experience. Last month I did the Victory Show on Fight Pass, and I worked with Eddie Wineland. And Eddie hadn't done a lot of TV, and we had a great time. You know, if people ask for my advice, I'll give it, but I'm never anybody to force. I have a very libertarian viewpoint on life. I don't force anything on anybody. If somebody wants to ask me questions or ask my advice, I'll give it all day long. Eddie Wineland was one of those guys. He wanted to get some coaching from me. But I just settle in, I groove. You guys know me. I pride myself on being low maintenance, virtually no ego. I come in and I do my thing. Some people talk a lot as colors. Some people don't talk that much. But I'm just there calling the fights. And I'm a firm believer that as a commentator, one, you have to do your preparation, and that includes pronouncing every name correctly, which a lot of commentators don't, unfortunately, and a lot don't prepare. They usually do get found out. They usually don't last in combat sports. But the other thing is you have to be excited, because if you're not excited as a commentator, what does that send to the fans? That sends the message that maybe you should be watching something else. When I'm calling fights, there's no place in the world professionally that I would rather be than sitting there ringside or cage side or mat side calling those fights, and I certainly hope that comes through. I never kid myself that people are watching because of me. My job as a commentator, and Jimmy Smith, who I'm so happy for, is doing such a great job at the UFC. We talked about this all the time when we worked together at M1 and the Two Afflictions and for 5.5 years at Bellator. Our job is to enhance the experience of people watching fights. We're not the show. We're not the stars. The fights dictate it. We're there to enhance the experience, and I really believe in that philosophy.
Sean Wheelock, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He'll be calling the fights along with Antonio Tarver on Saturday, June 2nd, talking Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. For more information on the card and all the information, because they've done a great job of letting you know how you can order the pay-per-view. It is $30. Go to www.bareknuckle.tv. Sean, one other thing here. Tell me a little bit about Karate Combat. I saw you and Boss Rudin did the first installment, right? And did we have a second one coming up anytime soon?
We do. I'm really happy that I'm the guy going forward. I'm the play-by-play. Boss Rudin is the color. I know Boss has some PFL commitments. He's under contract to them, but we're the team. I have a contract. These guys are awesome. You know, I get approached by a decent amount of startups, and sometimes I look and I think, I'm not so sure. I'll usually say yes, and I'll take a chance. With these guys, immediately I could tell they were smart. I think the three owners all went to Wharton Business School, which I don't know a lot about Wharton Business School other than to know that that's pretty impressive. So, I'm a dropout from Arizona State University, by the way, so I go to Wharton Business School. I'm pretty impressed. These guys get it. They understand it financially. They understand the fights. They understand regulatory, which so many people don't. They understand fighter safety. I did that first event in Florida, and I loved it. I know the rule set's still evolving, but those fights were exciting. And it's very organic. I'll do a show sometimes, and I'll literally hear nothing. And then I'll do a show, and everyone is contacting me. It was those type things with Karate Combat. I did the show. Everyone got a hold of me, all my friends in the community. I loved it. It was great. And I think karate is a little bit of an outlier on the term. There's some ground and pound. There are a lot of Muay Thai elements. There are a lot of boxing and kickboxing elements. It's not the karate you're going to see in the next Olympics. You'll see a lot of those same athletes. It is really exciting. The full show was completely free on karate.com and on YouTube. There were some spectacular knockouts. Josh Quayhagen, who fought in Bellator, who I thought was going to roll through his guy, he was slept. The fights were exciting. They put together a rule set to encourage exciting fighting. I love it. I am so thrilled to be under contract and to be with the Karate Combat guys. They're talking about Athens for our show later this summer. We're saying Dubai, back to the United States. I think it's going to be really, really big. I love anybody who comes into the marketplace that's trying to do new things, bare knuckle, with karate combat. I'm mesmerized by Quintet, the first event, Sakuraba and Barnett's grappling competition, the 5-on-5, not 5-on-5 together on the mat, but the team grappling that they do on Fight Pass. Mm-hmm. I'm mesmerized by that. I think the UFC is so big and so great. MMA, not a naysayer. I think our sport is very, very healthy. I think as it's evolved, I think there's room for other things out there that don't have to cannibalize the audience. They grow the audience, and people can flow freely. You can watch every UFC and every Bellator, and also watch Karate Combat and Bare Knuckle, and watch Lomachenko on ESPN, and watch Quintet and Invicta and Victory on Fight Pass. I think there's a lot out there. And I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but 25 years on now from the first UFC, November 12th, 1993, seems like people are starting to try some new things. And I'm really happy to be a part of it. It's very cool to be a part of Bare Knuckle and Karate Combat.
You got a lot going on, my man, but you deserve it. You're one of the best in the business, and we appreciate your time here on MMA Junkie Radio, talking karate, soccer, bare knuckles. We covered a lot. And hopefully when you come in July to present Art Davey, we can have you here in studio. All right, Sean?
I would love to come in with Art. We've talked about that. So the UFC is being so incredibly gracious. And I will tell you, if I can finish on this, the UFC has just treated Art beautifully. And with the Hall of Fame, you guys opened my segment by talking about how the Hall of Fame has really come up. That's credit to two people in this order. Ant Evans at the UFC, who's also in charge of Fight Pass and in charge of the Hall of Fame, and Dana White. They understand the potential they have with the Hall of Fame. They're treating everyone so well. The UFC is, I would have come out on my own dollar, but the UFC is bringing me out as a presenter, making me feel part of the program with Art. We'll be up from July 3rd all the way through, staying all the way through the Cormier-Miocic card at T-Mobile. And I could not be more pleased with the UFC and how they're treating Art and treating me. And we'll see you guys out for International Fight Week. And again, thanks for the support of Art and me and everything you guys do for our sport of MMA.
Awesome, Sean. All right, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you. All right, folks, don't forget, on Saturday, it's Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship, 9 p.m. Eastern Start Time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Get the pay-per-view info by going to the website, www.bareknuckle.tv. Also, if you're going to go in person, it's the Mountain Time Zone. So when I say 6 p.m., that's when the doors open. The first fight will be at 7 in the Mountain Time Zone out in Cheyenne. $40 gets you in the door. All right, Danny, how are we looking with our next guest?
He has not answered yet. So do you want to take a break?
Sure, okay, let's do that. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back with Gian Villante.
They pat because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
U2 is playing a private show for SiriusXM subscribers at Harlem's world-famous Apollo Theater, and we have your chance to be there. One grand prize winner will win a trip for two to New York and tickets to this very special show at the Apollo on June 11th. For official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/U2. Do that before June 4th. No additional purchase is necessary to enter or to win. All right, on Friday, starting things off on FS1 at 10 p.m. Eastern, it will be Gian Villante versus Sam Alvey. They will be fighting in the light heavyweight division. This will be John's 13th fight. He joins us now on MMA Junkie Radio. What's up, John? How you doing?
Good, man. You know, last couple of days always stinks losing some weight, but not terrible.
All right. Yeah, you are a big cat, that's for sure. How many pounds do you have to lose when you arrive to the city that you'll be fighting in on a fight week, typically?
I mean, I typically walk around at like 250 and I fight at 205. So, but you know, I get down close enough, so I'm only losing like 15 the week of 15 to 20.
Mm-hmm. Do you think you'll do this for the rest of your career, or do you think eventually you'll be a heavyweight?
I don't know. I mean, it's we'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind fighting heavyweight. You know, I do see some fights that I do like at heavyweight, but I don't know. Light heavyweight's fun, and it's a division where there's a lot of room to move. So you string together a couple at light heavyweight, a couple good fights, and you could be right there, pretty close for a title shot.
John, as a young man, you wrestled, so you lost weight for the years that you wrestled in high school, state champion, and then played some college ball, and then got back into combat sports, where you are back to cutting weight. Has this always been difficult for you, no matter what? And is it something you've just conditioned yourself to be used to, or does it just flat out suck every time you have to do this?
Yeah, it doesn't matter how low you get or this and that. It always sucks every time you got to do it. And, it's never been easy. But, it's part of the job. I don't mind doing it. I mean, you've seen a lot of crazy things going on past couple of cards with these people losing weight. And, I mean, this is part of our job. It's not just going in there and putting on a good show. It's, coming in and making sure you're a professional, you make weight and all that other stuff. So, never had a problem with it before. And, you're not going to start with now, So, it's part of our job. Just get it done. So, it does suck, but it's part of it.
3 of your last 4 fights have been in the Northeast. 2 of those were in New York, your state, and this one will be in New York. How happy are you that the UFC made it back, or made it into New York, and kept their word that they'd have plenty of shows out there? It looks like you've kind of been one of their featured stars out there.
Yeah, I think as long as there's fights in New York, I'll probably be on them. I have fun. I always, have a pretty good following out here. I'm pretty New York. I'm definitely in New York. I, loud and obnoxious like most of us fans. So, yeah, no, I love that they keep doing them here. Hopefully this athletic commission, I mean, I don't want to start bashing them now before they judge my fight. Hopefully I don't go I'm just hoping I don't have to go to judge the scorecards. But yeah, they need to figure it out. They're pretty new to MMA, so they got a lot to learn still. But hopefully New York cleans up where, I think we're like, I was looking at a stat the other day. New York City alone has more people in it than any city in the U.S. So, I mean, we got to, step up our game with the whole MMA, the commission, and all that stuff. So, hopefully, it's getting better fight by fight the more experience they get. And we could hopefully have no problems or hiccups this time, but we'll see what happens at weigh-in. It always sucks there.
Gian Villante, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be fighting Sam Alvey this Friday, folks. It's Friday, UFC Fight Night 131 on FS1, which is Fox Sports 1, Channel 219 if you have DirecTV. It's a 10 p.m. Eastern start time, and they will be leading off on the main card. John's got 16 wins, 10 by KO. Dan, Tom, our fight analyst, what do you have for Gian Villante?
Hey, what's up, John? I know you got Sam Alvey coming up here, and obviously he's moving up from middleweight, but but he is a southpaw, and I noticed you haven't faced too many southpaws on your record. Obviously, you work with a great crew with Keith Trimble at the Belmore Kickboxing Academy, but what do you got going on to prepare for this challenge?
Yeah, definitely a challenge. It's hard to find southpaws, especially as a big dude. But I actually had Chris Camozzi, a good buddy of mine, who coached on the last season of Ultimate Fighter with me. So we became buddies. We were friends before that, and he came out and helped me out for about 2 weeks. And then I was started off my camp out in Cleveland, trained with Stipe, and he had some southpaws for me to work with there. So definitely got a lot of southpaw work, and hopefully it's enough to to fight Sam. And I think I'll be all right. I feel pretty confident going into the fight.
Right on, and just want to follow up on that. We talked to one of your teammates earlier in the week about, or last week I should say, about Keith Trimble, and he was very passionate about how he coaches. And someone who watches a lot of film, I love watching Keith. He's really animated in the corner, but he's also a real no-nonsense guy. But it seems like you guys have a great relationship, because he seems like he obviously cares about you, but at the same time, it seems like he wants to pull his hair out when he's in your corner. Can you speak on that, John? Your relationship with Keith and how that goes in the corner?
Oh yeah, me and Keith been together since I started fighting. It's almost 10 years now. So up and downs too, always fighting, but that's just part of it, man. I'm not exactly an easy guy to get along with, so I'm always having fun. I don't take anything too serious, so it's kind of that could be a problem sometimes.
All right, Ghost, finish things out here with Gian Villante, our guest. What do you have for John?
John, both of you guys, you and your opponent, you carry different paces in fights. I think yours is more up-tempo, where he tries to slow things down a little bit.
Yeah.
What as far as, like, when you look at the matchup, do you feel like, is there any doubt in your mind that it's going to be your pace that gets dictated in this fight? Because it seems like it's just going to be unavoidable for him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in your face the whole time, and I keep going forward. It's pretty much the only way I know how to fight. I mean, some guys could fight going backwards, some guys could fight, be counter fighters, this and that. I'm go forward, and I'm starting every series of punches or kicks or whatever it may be. So he knows what I'm going to try to do. I know what he's going to try to do. I really don't mind. I mean, I like a guy with a full piece. It's cool, man. I'll be a fat guy for a little bit, but it's cool with me. I mean, I'm not too worried about what he wants to try to do. It's when I'm in his face throwing the whole time, he's going to have no choice really to come back at me.
Hey, John, thanks for squeezing us in here, man, on Fight Week. I know this is the toughest part, the weight cut, but, hey, it'll be over soon, and you can go out there and have some fun and entertain us like you always do. I think it's going to be a great fight with you and Sam Alvey, and we'll be tuning in on Fox Sports 1, so thanks again, bud.
Yeah, thanks, man. Sorry I'm not the most energetic right now.
No worries, no worries. We were laughing the whole time. We were having a good time with you, so thank you very much for the interview.
All right, good stuff, bro.
All right, take care. All right, that's Gian Villante. Follow him on Twitter at GPVillante. Him and Sam Alvey will be starting things off on Friday. Can't emphasize that enough. We don't want to miss out. Let's squeeze in the daily debate, and then we'll go to break and come back with Sam Alvey. Y'all ready to go here?
Let's do it.
Today's question, presented by the MMA Junkie Radio team, is, considering how long it took Michael Bisping to announce his retirement, do you think he'll stay retired for good? Yes or no? Goes.
Normally, I would have said no. I don't think, because of how much posturing was done in the lead up to it. And actually, just about any fighter nowadays, I think I'd say, they'll be back. But because one of the issues for Michael Bisping is that eye, and he cannot get that fixed until he's officially done, I would say that that's the pretty good indicator that says he's going to stay retired.
Everything you just said and this little bit, I think he's also prepared himself for his post-career. So, yeah, I'm also thinking he's done for good. How about you, Dan?
I'm with you guys, but I almost want to change my vote, because I feel like voting yes means that he is going to have a complicated health issue for the rest of his life. And I'm hoping that Mike Bisping clears up both eyes, or whatever the issues may be. But that being said, you guys really nailed it. Usually I would say no for any fighter. I'm almost numb to it. I think we all kind of are with what we've seen with MMA retirements in air quotes. But with the health issues and with a long career, it's really hard not to see this be a good walk away into the sunset.
Yeah, and he also took the time to think about it. He didn't make a rash decision. He passed up these UK-based shows, which would have been where he would have wanted his swan song. So taking the time to do it, with the health concerns and the fact that he's accomplished so much, I just think this one's really for good.
I don't think he would have made this decision to stop fighting had he not had that backup of being an analyst. However, that's with Fox. And now we know there's a deal with ESPN. So maybe that means he transfers over to ESPN? I would imagine it would, because I think that was probably something he thought about a lot.
Yeah. Well, either way, good luck to him. Enjoy your retirement. It was one hell of a career. And by the way, here are the final results. 941 of you voted. So thank you very much for your participation. 67% said yes. 33% said no. There's the Daily Debate brought to you by the MMA Junkie Radio team. All right, with that, let's go to our break here, and then we'll come back with Smilin' Sam Alvey. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial.
can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
The Vegas Golden Knights aren't just the talk of the NHL and the sports world, they're the talk of the town in Las Vegas. Follow the money while you follow this expansion team's quest for the Stanley Cup on the only channel broadcasting live from a Las Vegas sportsbook. I don't know about all that. The Vegas Stats and Information Network. Odds are you'll like what you hear on SiriusXM Channel 204. That's what I stumbled over. We got to fix that.
Huh?
We got to fix that. Who writes these, Danny? The show for themselves or Sirius?
I think Sirius writes them, or you can submit them. I've edited a couple one, like the one yesterday, where the date they put it out and it was tomorrow or today, I guess now. I was the one who included that part, but I can't.
They need to figure that one out because we're OGs when it comes to that. They've only been around for a year or two. All right, let's talk to our last guest of the day. His name is Smilin' Sam Alvey. He will be mixing it up on Friday versus Gian Villante. First fight on the fight card. Fox Sports 1 has you covered. They start off the main card, which finishes with a main event of Jimmy Rivera and Marlon Moraes. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, Smiling Sam? How you doing?
I am doing fantastic. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, my man. You know, we just hung up the phone with Volante, and he was telling us, about just, we know he's a big guy, and I'm sure you know this too, and he cuts a lot of weight. But for you, that's one thing we don't have to worry much about. For many years you were doing the middleweight route. Now you're doing the light heavyweight route. How much did this change your life, making that move up?
You know what? It's just a more comfortable camp. I know I'm not as big as Volante, but I'm still not small for 205. I've still got about 15 pounds to go yet. But I'm right on pace to make weight. Hopefully I'll step back in that octagon close to 225, 230, somewhere in there.
Let me ask you some rapid fire questions in regards to this because I'm curious. By you being able to carry around more weight, have you had less injuries than when you were middleweight?
Not really, but it's kind of I was a middleweight for 10 years. I've only been a light heavyweight for 6 months. So I really feel about the same. I'm just a little happier all the time. Yeah, and that's just kind of what I'm expecting. As it goes along, as I stay at light heavyweight, maybe I'll get injured less. I hope I get injured less. It wasn't a huge problem before, but everyone gets their bumps and bruises.
Do you feel like you can push your cardio better now with the weight you carry around now versus when you were a middleweight?
It's just a different kind of cardio because I can lift more now, so I can get everything I can do heavier, which is nice. So I try and keep the same recovery rate as I did at 85. I just can do it while being strong.
Have your friends and family told you you're a nicer guy to be around since you've been a light heavyweight?
I don't know that anyone said that, but I think they're all thinking it. Because it really was a big cut to get to 85. I usually walk around about 225, 230, and then I cut down to 185, and now I only have 20 pounds less to cut.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that was quite a lot you were cutting then back in the day. All right, good move to move around. Sam, last one for me, and then I'll turn it over to my co-hosts. Because you're smiling, Sam, are you almost under pressure that people just assume you're always in a good mood, whereas have you ever just been on a fight week, especially in a mood where you just want to be left alone, but you almost have this persona to live up to?
No, I really am just a pretty nice guy all the time, pretty happy guy. And fight week is like my favorite weekend ever. All I have to do is lose weight. I don't have to work out. I don't have to take care of anything. I just have to get lighter. It's really relaxing even. I usually get a massage. I'll run a couple times. And that's about it. So I've never really felt angry about much until I did get a flash of anger when Colby Covington, that jerk off, he tried to ruin Star Wars on Twitter. I had seen it already, but had I not seen it, I would have been pissed.
Colby Covington's the reason I was there at 7:30 the day before.
You just wanted to get it
I just
over
wanted
with?
to get it over with. Yeah, because I knew he's coming.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that jerk.
Sam Alvey, our guest here on MMA Junkie Radio. He will be fighting on Friday, folks. Can't emphasize that enough. The UFC's presenting UFC Fight Night 131 on Friday. It is on Fox Sports 1. His fight will lead things off on the main card versus Gian Villante. Goes, what do you have for Sam Alvey?
Sam, 4 fights in 2016, 4 in 17. With 18, do you anticipate it being exactly the same, more or less?
I'm always ready to fight. Now that I have less weight to cut, I'm still ready to fight. And you'll remember, I might have had 4 in a calendar year, but I tied the record. I have 6 fights in a year. I tied with Cerrone. And I actually got there 2 months faster than him. So I don't know if I'll ever get to 6 fights again, but I'm happy fighting. And plus, I only make money when I fight, so I try and fight as often as I can.
When you look at Gian Villante and you look over the video and the footage of all that, I mean, you fought so many people, so many different styles. Does he stand out at all over some of the other riddles that you've had to solve in your past?
Yeah, he does, because if you watch him fight, he's really more of a striker. But then you'll see a couple of his fights, and he can turn on the wrestling whenever he wants to. And I mean, his fight against Keith Berry, who's a teammate of mine, he took Keith down like a dozen times in 3 rounds, just over and over and over again. So I kind of have to be prepared for either. And then he's probably the strongest guy in the light heavyweight division, so I got to be aware of that too. But I'm pretty happy with the game plan me and the coaches have put together, and I've been performing real well in practice, so I hope I pull it off on Friday.
The fight analyst, Dan Tom's got some questions for you. What you got, Dan, for Sam Alvey?
Hey, Sam. Great to talk to you again, man. Real quick question before the fight stuff. You still doing the Pound for Pound podcast over there with Jordan Killian?
I am. It's just we've been a few weeks since we've done it. Just with he's about to have his first child, and I'm in camp, so it got a little hectic to make the time every week. But as soon as this fight's over and his little, I believe he's having a little girl. His little girl enters the world. We're gonna get back on it and do our weekly cast.
That's awesome, man. Obviously, I'm a big fan, and I have had both of you guys on my podcast before, so I'm always looking out for the Pound for Pound podcast over there. But for this fight, I don't want to say I made the mistake. I'm always weary about going to your Instagram. You know, I got to do this whether I'm interviewing or studying a fighter, Sam. But ever since you fought Elias Theodorou, let's just say you posted a shadow boxing drill that left nothing to the imagination with what you were wearing. So now, anytime I have to go to old Smiling Sam's Instagram, I'm a little tentative. You remember what I'm talking about, Sam?
I remember. Elias, I made a lot of videos. He was the one guy I was sure he was going to play back. He was going to make some videos, and he never did. Matter of fact, I've never really let anyone play back, but I will. I always have a fun time with my camps, and I love my little videos.
That's awesome, man. They're definitely entertaining, but more toward the tactical side. Obviously, that's maybe fits more under, I guess, mental warfare, if you want to call that. But the tactical side, obviously, for people that aren't familiar, you're a southpaw counterfighter. And as somebody who, when I did train and compete, I would like to fancy myself as more of that style southpaw and more on the counter striking. So I definitely appreciate the style. But Sam, we saw a fight this weekend of 2 counter fighters, of Darren Till and Wonderboy Thompson. Now, they were 2 different style of counter fighters, but with that fight in mind and all the discussion it created, does that ever make you think about, maybe strategy with your corner to where, not that you want to change who you are, it works so well, but maybe, telling your corner, hey, if it's close, can you let me know so I can, turn it on? Or does any of that factor into your game plan?
It does. I respect and I really enjoy watching Darren Till and Wonderboy fight, but that wasn't a great fight. They were in the main event, and more than Till winning, people are talking about how the fight wasn't all that great. I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the one guy in the card who has a boring fight. This is my second time on the main card, and I plan on making people want to tune in and watch me. The last time I was on it, I got beat up by Brunson. Stupid Brunson. But and then after that, I got demoted for a minute. But this time I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure it's entertaining. I'm fighting for the finish. I'm always fighting for the finish, but I'm going to fight an entertaining fight to make people want to tune in and watch me, so I can be the main event or co-main event next time.
I just had more fun watching you and Dan Henderson fall into a pool than I did watching the whole Till and Thompson fight. At Dan Hendo on
I had more
Instagram.
fun falling. Yeah, I had more fun falling into the pool than I did watching the Till fight.
He wrote, I had to regulate, so I thought he was just going to throw you, but he wound up falling in there as well, so it looks like he had a good time.
Yeah. Well, he's trained me well. He's been my coach for years, so I knew what he was trying to do.
Hey, one more quick question. Your wife does an amazing job of helping you to game plan. I've heard her in the corner give great instructions. I'm just curious, does she only corner you, or have other fighters ever asked her for input, whether to corner on fight night or just maybe help with a game plan?
Other fighters talk to her all the time about it. Cornering has gotten harder for her because if she's going to corner, I'm usually going to corner too, and we've got 3 kids that have to get put somewhere. But game planning, she's helped out with a lot of them. Chris Curtis, who's going to be on the Contender Series, she's helped with him. Tom Galicchio, Ultimate Fighter alumni, she's helped out with that one. And she has wrapped all their hands. She's worked with my amateur team. She's very involved in that side of the sport, too, with more than just me.
Very cool. Very cool to hear, man. All right, Sam, thanks for squeezing us in on Fight Week. It's been great catching up, like it always is with you. You're definitely a character, and you're definitely an entertaining fighter, and it's great that you always stay busy. Gives your fans one hell of a ride, that's for sure. You never leave a lull in your career. So anyway, I hope you have a safe fight week, and we will be tuning in on Friday night.
Hey, thank you so much, guys, and I'll be winning for you on Friday night.
Awesome, man. Thanks, man. Take care.
All right, you too, guys.
All right, see ya. That's our show for today, folks. That is Sam Alvey. On the heels of the Gian Villante interview, as well as Sean Wheelock. Big shout out to myself for making that happen. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Josh Copeland, Sean Jordan, and Steven Seiler. They will all be participating in PFL 1, which kicks off on June 7th, so the following Thursday. Mark Montoya, tough coach from Stipe's team, he'll be on Thursday's show, and Walt Harris will be getting some junkie karma on Friday.
Nice.
So that's something to look forward to. We're out of here, folks. Go out there and be a champion.
Almost home down the drain. People
Sounds like
it's-
a football game. Florida,
It's
Bama.
literally